Hi, I'm photographer David Flores, and welcome to the B&H Photo live stream discussion of Nikon's first foray into full-frame 35mm mirrorless with a Nikon Z7 camera. Now, we have an incredible panel of image makers and photographic storytellers with us to talk about the new camera, mirrorless, and their process with the new Z7. Why don't we just go down the line, have you all introduce yourselves. Welcome back, Andrew. It's good to see you, man.
Thanks, David. Man, really pumped to be back. This was a fun time. I'm Andrew Hancock, Nikon ambassador, sports photographer. Do everything from editorial and commercial work, focusing on portraiture, behind the scenes, the games, and everything in between.
We had you here last year. We were talking about the D850.
Right. Now we get to talk about this exciting new body, which is just an absolute blast to shoot. And on top of that, I get joined by two of my fellow ambassadors. So.
This is so cool. How you doing, Todd?
Doing well. Excited to be here, David. I'm Todd Owyoung, music photographer and Nikon ambassador, and I love shooting anything related to music. So that's concerts, tour photography, artist portraits, editorial, and promotional work.
And Todd, you were just down south with the
I was in Nashville for 2 days with the Z7 and had a blast shooting portraits.
I'm curious about all that, but what did you eat?
Had a little barbecue, a little hot chicken.
That's awesome, man. Charma, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You just got your hands on this camera.
Yeah, I only had it for 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
I'm Pena. I'm a wedding photographer based out of Princeton, New Jersey, and I specialize in multi-day Indian weddings. And yeah, only 2 hours.
I am shocked we got that out of you, actually, because this is peak season for you.
Peak wedding season,
What are you doing after this?
I'm going to leave here. I have a wedding Sunday, and then I have 10 weddings in the next 9 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Well, everybody is kind of working this into their workflow. Thank you all so much for being here. Can't wait to get into the discussion. Now, one of the hallmarks of a B&H live stream discussion, we try to get to as many questions as we can live. So, tweet your questions at us, whether they're about photography, mirrorless, or the Z7. Send them over with the hashtag BHPhotoLive. We'll do our very best to answer your questions live. B&H Social will pick up with you on the social media. But if you hashtag it with BHPhotoLive, you'll automatically be entered into a drawing to win a $500 B&H gift card. So we should all get out our phones and answer the quick questions. I had the chance to get my hands on the Z7 last week, and we used it in a kitchen set, tried it with a lot of different types of photography. We worked with the adapter for lenses. We used the native lenses, looking at high contrast, mixed light situations. We're going to play a little version of that video right now, and then we'll dive into the discussion. This is the Z7, Nikon's first full-frame 35mm mirrorless camera. From the grip to the image quality, even the menu system, if you're coming from a Nikon DSLR, this is incredibly intuitive to use. Under the hood, there's a brand new Nikon designed 45.7 megapixel backside illuminated sensor. Wonderful ISO range between 64 and 25,600. The Z7 shoots UHD 4K and HD up to 120 frames per second for silky smooth slow motion. New mount, new lenses. Brand new Nikkor Z 35mm 1.8S, 50mm 1.8, and a brand new 24-70 f4. Nikon has tons of legacy f-mount lenses. You can use those without any compromise using the FTZ mount adapter. Now, obviously, there's a lot of awesome specs that go along with the camera, but I'm interested, and maybe we can start with you on this, Charma, just picking up the camera, what was your initial reaction to picking up the Z7?
I can see how it'll seamlessly be added to my bag because it just feels like what I'm used to. It's a teeny tiny version, but it feels like what I'm used to. It feels like a Nikon. Everything is where I want it to be. And the adjustments that I've had to make, and mind you, I only had 2 hours, so, but the adjustments I had to make and the things that changed were only because they were so worth changing. And we're going to talk about focus points later, I assume, but any changes I had to make were incredibly enriching changes. Other than that, it felt like a Nikon.
And the menu system is the same. Like, Todd, do you have any trouble navigating the menu?
It's basically identical. I think all of us probably had the same experience where we picked up the camera, changed the settings, to customize it to our own likings. Everything's laid out the way we like it, and then we can just go to work. We can just start shooting, and there's probably a couple minutes in the menu, and then we were off and running. And that was such a beautiful thing. Like, you pick it up, it feels like a Nikon. It has the ergonomics we like, the control layout. Everything's there. It has probably the most customization that I've had in a Nikon body, where there are at least 6 customizable controls. So you can set everything from accessing white balance to the focus mode and all these things that are at your fingertips. It's great.
Awesome. Now, Andrew, you've been on Nikon for the better part of a decade now. In terms of picking it up and handling for you, was it familiar, or were there things to get used to?
No, I mean, it was seamless. And, it picks up and, made my normal changes, which for me, the first thing I'm going to do is going to be change it to back button focus.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any back
Right
button
here.
focus?
Exactly.
Okay.
But, you just get it and you just get straight to work. One of the exciting things last year when you were talking about the D850 that really just kind of blew me away was when we opened up a RAW file for the first time. You just saw the dynamic range, the detail, the color, and the clarity. And it's no different with this. I mean, you have a D850 in a mirrorless format. Because I think one of the things we were asked last year was like, we'd like to see a mirrorless version of the D850. Here you go, you've got it.
Now, these are some of your shots that you were doing here. These are gorgeous.
Thanks.
Where are we looking at here?
Right here, we're on the east shore of Oahu, and really thinking about everybody there today with the hurricane that's heading that way. But we actually had Hurricane Hector passing to the south when all this happened, so unfortunately we didn't get a lot of really great, dramatic Hawaiian skies, but we did finally get it to open up for about 10 minutes at one point, and we just made the most of it. And when we did that, normally I'm working a lot with heavy lights, but on this I was like, I just wanted to be light, nimble, responsive, so I brought the SP5000s and used those wirelessly with the camera, and it was seamless. We just got to making pictures, which is the true joy of this camera.
That's something to bring up, because if you already have investment in the Nikon system, whether it's a flash system or even the battery, it comes right along. All of this stuff feels pretty familiar. But there are some differences. So you're going from an optical viewfinder in the 850 or another SLR to an electronic viewfinder. And what is that like? Todd, maybe we can start with you on this one. Moving over to an electronic viewfinder, what are some of the things you noticed? Was it weird, or did it feel comfortable to you?
It was seamless for me. I think being able to pick up the camera and have the clarity of the Z7's EVF was astounding. And it was really freeing because you have, it's so clear, and it's not, this grainy, tiny image. It's something that it's like looking through an OVF for me. And in addition to having all of the kind of heads-up display, all of your settings visible, and I wear glasses, and having that eye point where it's still being able to see everything in the frame without still having it comfortably put up to my eye, and not kind of having to look around. That for me, it's a beautiful EVF.
The magnification's really good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of electronic viewfinders from other mirrorless cameras. They're excellent. I think electronic viewfinder is a wonderful thing and a wonderful technology that's in the mirrorless cameras. But this one's a little bit different. Like the glass that you're looking through is Nikon glass. There's fluorine element. There's a spherical element. There's a different kind of clarity to this one. Now, as an event shooter, you don't always get to control the type of lighting situation or mixed lighting situation you're getting into. So I imagine the EVF may have some advantages for you.
Well, during my 2 hours yesterday, I may have dragged another Nikon ambassador all over New York. And I was very quickly able to change my white balance and trust it. And so to not have to guess and play a little bit.
Todd, you look awesome in this shot.
And you're a tiger.
Yeah.
This I was in auto, but there's another one where he was sitting in a library, and I was very quickly able to just see what white balance I needed versus kind of guessing, because obviously we're all experienced photographers. We know sort of where we need to go, but then we tweak. And I didn't have to tweak because I can trust my EVF.
Right. Or if you want to, it's, the difference between, I think, a good photograph and a great photograph is it's about an inch. It's a very, very small measure, and we're all fighting over how to get to that extra inch. DVF, whoa, where's that?
That's the one.
That's gorgeous. What light is going on here? This is just the natural light in the room?
There happened to be a lamp shade over this couch, and so we found our way turning it on and plucked him in the chair.
This is so dramatic. Todd, you should really consider
modeling.
I'm only the subject because Andrew was unavailable.
Modeling rates are high
Yeah.
for me.
Well, Andrew, like in the sports realm, how do you use an EVF? Because I know like blackout time's an issue. Seeing things in real time as they're coming at you is an issue. Was there a transition for you, or did it feel okay?
That's something I was curious about when I was going to pick it up for the first time. And the thing I love, about the camera is, that EVF. It's a Nikkor lens essentially that you have in there. Those are coated elements. And the fact that it extends beyond the back of the camera, so you're not just like smushing your nose into the side of it to try to look through. It's natural, it's right there, and you're able just to get to work. And last year when we were here talking about the D850, and I was kind of hesitant toward mirrorless just because my thought process was I look through enough screens as it is every day. I don't want to look at another screen. It was less than 5 minutes. One time I picked it up shooting I didn't even realize I was looking at EVF anymore.
Whoa, what is going on here? What is this shot?
One of my favorite things to do, which is multiple exposures. I've been doing that since the film days, and it's something I've always enjoyed doing. And it's one reason why I switched to Nikon back in 2010 and the multiple exposure options they had in the D3. It just kind of, they'll put a product in front of me that allows me to continually push my creativity. And the fun thing about this is when you set it up, you take a multiple exposure, and then in the EVF, it goes the first frame you take, roughly 50% or whatever it is, but you can see where that is in your frame to compose your second shot around that to make those two exposures work together.
This takes the guesswork out of where you're positioning your subject.
So much more calculated.
Do you all do multiple exposures in camera?
I do,
I do.
but now I don't have to guess anymore. Usually I'm guessing.
And beyond the double exposure, just the what you see is what you get kind of experience with the EVF is something that blew me away. I mean, I loved it in terms of the white balance to, just the exposure, knowing you got it locked in, and it's exactly what you want, not kind of looking at the meter and then, reviewing the image and go, okay, I need to adjust. It's all very fluid, so you can get that, perfect exposure dialed in, the composition, everything.
Your portraits are absolutely beautiful here, Todd.
Thank you.
I just love how warm all the lighting is. It's so gorgeous. But you do a lot of portraiture. I know you shoot stage, but I'm curious. Like the electronic viewfinder also has some benefits for a music photographer because behind the scenes advantage. Like if you need to be unobtrusive.
Yeah, the silent shooting mode. It's completely silent. So if I'm backstage with an artist and trying to get those candid moments. And be inconspicuous, the mirrorless lets me do that, which is a huge revelation.
When you say silent, though, yesterday when I got my camera, someone else had had it before me, and they had turned it to silent. And so when I got the camera, I was trying to take pictures, and I'm like, why isn't anything happening? But it actually took like 30.
It's fast.
It's amazing.
Really fast.
Yeah.
And you don't have that, if you haven't shot with a mirrorless camera before and you're working with the electronic shutter, there's no sonic note for you, but there's also no physical feedback from the physical shutter, so you don't know you're shooting. How do you get over something like that? Like, imagine like with sport, you want to know the camera's going.
Absolutely, but I think that in a situation for me where this is going to sing, aside from working with a portrait subject, is doing behind the scenes stuff, being in a locker room, being in a place where you need to be that fly on the wall and just disappear. This affords you that opportunity to do that, which is fantastic. And it's just a tremendous asset to have in the bag. But I've got I think 4 cameras in order right now. I think 2 6s and 2 7s, just because I know how I can use so many different things. I do so much with remote cameras and whatnot. And I was like, I've got a lot of things I can do with these cameras. I'm really looking forward to putting them to use. So.
Super cool. So electronic viewfinder is a big plus. Having the electronic shutter for silent work is a really big deal. Something else that jumps out at us here: brand new lens mount, the Z mount. So there's 55 millimeter diameter at the largest open part, and there's a 16 millimeter flange distance. This is awesome for new lens design. Like Todd, when you were down in Nashville, did you shoot with the 35?
Yeah, I shot with the 35 and the 24-70 f4, and I was blown away by the sharpness, edge to edge of these lenses. Whatever the engineers are doing, whatever magic and voodoo is going on, like it works. And I think that's a testament, something we're going to look forward to seeing with what opportunities the new mount opens up. Not only from the the .95 Noct to lots of cool designs.
Charma, did you get to play with any of the native glass?
I did. I have both the 35 and the 24-70, but I'm very much a prime girl, so I stuck with the 35 the entire time. I mean, the thing that stuck out for me was the 90% focus coverage.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
I tend to be an extreme composition person, and I had to remind myself when I said there were adjustments I had to make, but they were all for a reason, a great reason. I think that was one of my adjustments. I don't have to focus and recompose anymore. I'll have to remind myself for maybe the first day, but I can compose whatever way I want, and I can have a focus point all the way in the corner, and I know it's going to hit, and I'm going to get what I want, versus other cameras where I will focus, recompose, and maybe lose what I'm looking for.
What's cool too is just because of the nature of the mount, even if you're putting your focus like not right at the center of the frame, right through the center of what's traditionally been the sharpest part of the lens, because of that light transmission and the short flange distance to diameter is allowing for so much light transmission, you can actually shoot wide open at the
Corners.
edge of the frame
And I did,
and
yeah.
land the thing.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like it really goes against the way I think, especially if you shoot at a really large maximum aperture, that gets away from how you would normally do it.
Yeah. For my portrait shoot, I was shooting almost exclusively wide open with the 35, with the zoom, and I didn't feel the need to stop down because the sharpness was there all the way to the edge. And I think, the 90% coverage changed the way I was composing in a way because I knew I could push, the subject to the corner. I knew the sharpness was there. I knew that the AF coverage and the performance was there. And one thing I really loved was the new pinpoint AF mode using contrast detection AF. And it lets you basically put the AF point right on a subject's eye. Not worrying about having the brow or the nose or any other facial feature kind of get in the way. You're going to hit the eye. It's going to be in focus and just nail it.
I think for portraiture, this is going to be a really big feature that we haven't had this traditionally with the DSLR because you're using phase detection, which is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So speed counts. I think phase detection is the way to go. But the accuracy of a contrast detection system, even though it's slower, the keeper rate is significantly higher.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I was also able to use the 105 with the converter, and it was solid. I expected the 105 to be front heavy, and it was not.
I love that lens.
Yeah.
Like, it's
You said
so,
portrait lens, and that's
it's the best. You use the 105 a lot.
Extensively. I used it in my assignment where we're doing some slow shutter stuff, rear curtain sync with the SP5000s running around downtown Dallas. But yeah, it's one of my favorite lenses, and it's with me in the bag. It's at the hotel right now. So, I'll shoot with it tonight, I'm sure. So.
This is cool. Well, at launch, we have these three lenses. We got the 35, we've got a 50 millimeter 1.8, and then there's the 24-70 f4. But, if the camera system's only as good as the lenses you can put in front of it, you need more, like if you're working professionally. But Nikon has this incredible library of f-mount lenses that go back to the 50s, and we can use those with the mount adapter. So who used it? I know you used it with the 105.
Yeah.
Aside from the balance in your hand, what else? Did it feel pretty solid?
It was 100% solid, and it focused just as I expected it to. It was. You wouldn't have known there was a converter there, except that I put it there.
Go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
I'd say there's absolutely no play in it. I had it on most lenses in my bag that I'd be taking to assignment. Everything from 14 to 24 to 7-200 to the 400-2.8. Shot in the rain with it. Didn't have any worries about any of that stuff.
We should show this. I think this is. There's the adapter right there. Can you throw me that body? Yeah. So it's cool. Like if you use Nikon, this fits right on. It's perfect.
Be your assistant today.
Shit, this is very weird. I'll back you up next time. All right. Let me see if I can. Oh, did I get that on too tight? I don't have the grip. I don't want to drop this. AJ. Thanks, man.
Like I said, the assistant today.
Right. Oh man. So ready. But everything, it just snaps right on, like you would an F lens, and there's no play. One of the biggest problems for me, I shoot with a lot of mirrorless cameras, and there's reasons why you have to adapt a piece of glass for a certain application. Something always goes wrong for me, whether it's like autofocus incompatibility, whether there's some kind of freak out with the body and lens combination, just shuts itself down. But my biggest fear is like the thing coming apart.
Yeah.
Because I always feel like wobble. The 70 to 200, this is not a small or lightweight piece of glass. And this feels fantastic.
Right. And the thing that's really neat when you look at the design and the engineering behind it, you talk about the 16 millimeter flange distance from the back of the end to the sensor. Now with this converter on there, that puts the lens the same distance it would be and a D850, a D5 from the back of the lens to where the sensor is.
Yeah. So if you're coming from DSLR, this is going to operate exactly as it was on your body. Like even for me, like coming from the 850 to this, all the focusing felt the same to me.
Right.
Crazy fast. So we've done this one. What's the longest thing you've put on it?
400. Yeah.
How'd that go?
Piece of cake. We had a sprinter running at us, tracks him effortlessly, locks on and just like I said, it's just something where you pull it out of the bag and there's really no hesitation to getting to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a system. Like if you're using Nikon, I think we've used the word seamless a lot here, but it's just very logical moving along. Like Todd, are there F-mount lenses that you gravitate towards in your work?
Oh yeah, lenses I use on daily basis, 14 to 24, 7200, the 24 to 70, VR. Those are all my kind of bread and butter lenses, and the 14 to 24 especially is this beautiful lens. It has this amazingly wide perspective, and so for concert photography, I love that lens for being able to get close in with musicians, like the drummer shot, kind of going through the kit and getting those really dramatic shots that, and angles that the fans don't see, so I feel like it's my responsibility to give them access into the, inside on stage, backstage, and to kind of open up that world. And so, yeah, tons of lenses in the F-mount series that I would love to adapt. Absolutely.
What are you taking with you?
I'm such a minimalist.
That's good. That's not a bad thing.
In my bag at home, I have a 35, an 85, and a 105. So already they have me covered really quickly. And then my 105, as we know, is completely balanced and perfectly functional with no degradation. I'm happy.
This is very different. Usually with a mirrorless launch, and it's hard to think about the Z7 as the first full frame 35 millimeter mirrorless from Nikon. It's strange because in a way, like the catalog of F-mount lenses is like wind at the back. Like if you have this stuff already, if you have lenses that you already love, it's right there. And even the battery like comes along for the ride here. Like except like there's a new B version of the battery.
Yeah, so that'll charge in the camera.
In camera, so you can just plug in over USB, plug it into your computer or to the USB in your car if you're driving.
Right.
But the battery also, it's a really good battery. Like if you're shooting an 850, that battery, if you're coming from D500, D850, the same battery will work in the Z7 and the Z6. But the B version of it, you can charge as you go. How's battery life in the mirrorless camera?
It's fantastic. We'd be out before dawn waiting for first light to shoot, and then we'd shoot throughout the day, shoot again at sunset. I never had to swap out a battery. So,
yeah,
I mean, you have it to where you can plug it in a car if you're going from A to B, but I've yet to find myself in a situation where I've had it. And one thing that, we do whenever we have a new body like this, which is a pre-production model, and we push it to its limits and say, all right, because we want to shoot it like we would normally be shooting an assignment, and say, all right, what can this thing take,
Yeah, I had the same experience as Andrew. I shot 2 10-hour days, single battery, shooting 1,000 to 1,500 shots on a single battery. And if I can shoot all day on one battery, I'm good.
It's pretty nuts. I just told Nikon about this morning, but when we were on the kitchen set for the video that we shot last week, I intentionally put the camera into high-speed continuous, trying to kill the battery. And your mileage is going to vary depending on what conditions you're in, altitude, the temperature, all kinds of things go into how long a battery lasts on the day. But in the studio, we got over 2,000 frames out of that camera on one battery, which is insane for a mirrorless camera or any camera, really.
Yeah.
All right, so we should talk a little bit about video because I think there's a lot of really awesome stuff that's under the hood here. And one of the features that the folks at B&H that Doug and Bobby really loved was the vibration reduction that's built into the camera. Now we have advantages for this as photographers, but on the video end, it was really, really incredible. Did you all get a chance to play with the video at all? Shoot any video?
I mostly played with the focusing for video, and it's I played with how it racks automatically, and it's so smooth because you can control the transition. You can control the speed of the transition. Other than that, I didn't play with the video a ton, but just seeing that there's this absolutely smooth transition, and just by tapping it, really simple, nothing crazy.
I wonder how that's going to be in the future. When I started shooting video, and I think this is true for a lot of folks that make moving image pieces, manual focus is a really big part of that experience. But with touch focus, is this accurate and calm? It's not erratic. Like if you tap it, it doesn't ramp crazy. It's not crazy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what this next crop of moving image makers is going to be doing for their focus. I'm really curious about it.
Shoot a little
bit of video, and the face detection was one thing that really stood out. You could, touch on the face, locks on. You can move around. You could change the distance. Everything, and it would follow the subject around and keep perfect focus. It was actually pretty stunning.
Yeah.
I've shot a little bit with it, and the thing I love is, it's such a lightweight form factor paired with these new lenses, which, also very robust but very light at the same time. So when you have that, amount of, kind of less weight in your hands, you kind of, and you have the VR engaged, it's like, you become a gimbal yourself, and so you're able to say things really smooth, shoot some slow-mo, and
I love the build of the new lenses. Like when I saw the images of them, I didn't, you don't really know until you touch them, but they look so minimalist.
Yeah.
They're so clean, but there's a weight and a wonderful build quality to them. But then just kind of going back to this idea of the new mount, where you win is because the mount is so large. The stabilizer actually inside can really move.
Sure.
Can really move around. So the vibration reduction is awesome. And it works with your F-mount lenses.
Right.
So I think one of the big requests, like folks that love the 105 portrait lens, there's been a lot of requests. Hey, is there any chance of a VR version of that lens?
And the same thing with the 14 to 24.
Now you got VR for every
absolutely.
lens.
That's right. How slow, did you shoot some slower exposure
I
stuff?
did a little bit. I was just pushing it because I don't normally shoot at 1.8, and I definitely don't normally shoot at a 20th, but I did, and it was sharp and clean. It was perfect.
Nice. How slow did you go? Because I know you're going for depth on a lot of these beach
Sure,
shots.
but whenever we did some of the low light pans with rear curtain sync, and we're doing 15th of a second, and it's keeping the line straight. And everything like that. The other thing that's exciting is, the built-in VR works in tandem with your lenses that have VR. So they're not going to be working against each other; they're going to work together, which just gives you, that much more of an added benefit.
That's nice. And how often does vibration reduction play into your work,
I
Todd?
think for backstage portraits of artists, or those kind of candid moments where there's no light, non-existent lighting, it's going to be huge. The fact that it'll take any existing lens, and add VR to it from an F-mount, that's massive. So being able to shoot in super low light conditions and get that 5-stop VR bonus, that's great.
No, that's pretty sweet. Well, there's a lot to talk about at the camera. We could talk about all this stuff like all the live long day, but we want to jump in, hear from you. We have some questions that are coming in over Twitter. If you're out there and you have questions for us, please tweet them at us. Use the hashtag BHPhotoLive. You'll automatically be entered in a contest to win a $500 B&H gift card. But let's get to some questions from folks in the Twitterverse. Okay, question number 1. Is One XQD slot reliable enough? Does this stop professionals from switching over? The new Z mount will be the largest full-frame mount on the market, so the lens can have more light, etc. What other brands follow suit in the future? Well, let's talk about this card thing, folks. Right. You want to start, Andrew?
Happy to.
Okay.
For me, it's pretty simple. It's a non-issue. In sports photographers, anytime I use a second card slot, I'm using it as a backup. I'm using it as overflow. Because we're more concerned about missing the next shot than what something we already have on the card is. But at the same time, though, we're ingesting frequently. So we've kind of already built in that into our workflow. We're ingesting frequently. We don't have to worry about it.
So you're passing the card off.
Exactly. And since the XQD format came out, I've been shooting that virtually exclusively, and I've never had an issue with the card. For me, as photographers, we have to be problem solvers. And for me, it's a pretty small problem to try to work around whenever you consider all the advantages that a new system like this brings. It's like, not seeing a forest from the trees, and so instead I'm looking at how this product is going to boost my creativity, allow me to deliver a different picture for my client, turn in something different. That's so much more of a benefit than me having to worry about, one card.
Todd, any thoughts?
I think Andrew nailed it, but I'm definitely of the same mind, where I'd rather have the fastest card out there that's future-proofed with, CF Express and the backwards compatibility there, that, the physical robustness of an XQD card, and the fact that I can ingest and download in half the time, that's massively important to my workflow. And if I am using a body with 2 slots, it's for overflow, just like Andrew. And so for me, it's a non-issue. I'd rather have the best card on the market than 2 slower SD cards any day of the week.
In the video end, it's much the same. Like there are professional video cameras that have these dual slots, but in most cases that's used in relay recording. So you don't run out of time, or you have a runner that goes through it. But Charmy, I gotta hear, on the wedding shoot, like how do you rectify this? Because wedding photographers, backup redundancy is a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first, I will be adding this to my bag. My D850s are glorious, amazing cameras that I do not need to replace. So, but this does things my D850s don't do, like 90% focus coverage. And being a professional is more than redundancy. It includes redundancy. It includes reliability. I need to take care of my clients and make sure they get everything they expect. At the same time, if I can elevate the product I'm delivering, I also think that's part of professionalism. And so adding something to my kit that lets me do more is part of that professionalism. And so, yes, I will take some extra steps to make sure that I'm potentially ingesting more during the day. I always have an assistant with me. They'll have a new responsibility. That's part of their professionalism. But I'm not replacing my D850s. I'm adding to them. And anytime that I can elevate my work, you know, we often talk about gear in the sense that, like, the gear doesn't make the photographer. That's true. However, the gear can absolutely be a barrier to your imagination.
Sure.
And so if I have a camera that can remove some barriers, then it's absolutely professional to me to add it to my kit so that I can now produce more of what's in my imagination.
And for us, I mean, it's, you know, I have some friends that were blowing my phone up yesterday whenever the announcement came out. And they're like, well, this is a deal breaker for me. I'm like, it's, again, guys, it's a non-issue. Like, well, I can't go back and reshoot a wedding. I'm like, I can't go back and reshoot the Super Bowl. I mean, they're not going to replay that again. But I'm like, hey, can you do it this time, look this way? It doesn't happen. But for us, that's also why, we've got runners and we're pulling cards in between plays. And, I'll have 4 cameras on my shoulders and it's just part of what we do. It's like, pop them out, pop them in, get back to it. That way, everything's saved on the back end. They're going into external drives. Client, an editor, if we have it on site, they're already getting things filed, uploaded, and out. It's just part of the workflow.
I like the idea that all of you are talking about where the camera becomes complementary to the DSLR system that you're already using. So there's feature advantages that may become a priority in a different situation. Like if you're like Todd, if you're backstage, you need a completely silent shutter. You don't want to click, click, click. You don't want to hear that.
It's all about using the right tool for the job.
Right.
There are times when the D850 is going to be appropriate, and there are times when the Z7 is going to be appropriate. It's just about using which one's going to allow you to make the best possible image with the least friction.
Love it. All right. So another question here coming in from Twitter: what makes the new Nikkor Z50mm f1.8s unique from current 50mm on the market? And why do you feel it will rank highly amongst other 50mm lenses? All right. Anybody want to take on that?
I think part of it's just the engineering of the new system with the Z mount.
Yeah.
And having that wide open aperture at 1.8, edge to edge sharpness, I mean, that's just fantastic.
Yeah, I think people are really going to have to use the system and experience that wide open sharpness that we have, because it's convincing. And when you compare, the 35 to conventional DSLR 35mm lenses, you're gonna see the advantages, and it's convincing and compelling, and it's enough for me to pre-order this, the 35 and the Z7, and because I want that performance in my bag.
Yeah. Some of it is just like the science behind it, having the physically larger mount, having the shorter flange distance. It's little things that we're not talking about. Obviously, yes, because of the design, engineers can really have a heyday with how they do a lens, but shortening that physical distance also controls problems that we have with the existing way we made images. Like that closeness really reduces the amount of chromatic aberration that could creep into a shot. So it's not just about being able to get sharpness wide open, but it also saves you a lot of time on the back end. I know everyone here makes portraits. Saving that time on the back end, cleaning up chromatic aberration, I think is a big deal. Anything else you wanted to throw in on 50?
I mean, double the light because of the shorter flange. I mean, 1.8 is... First, I can use it because it's actually edge-to-edge sharp.
Right, right.
But on top of that, there's just so much. You have to use it. You really do. I didn't get it. We've been talking about it for days.
Yeah.
But until I got my hands on it and played with it, I didn't really get it.
And all three of us, because of the genres we work in, all three of us are working at low light on a regular basis.
Constantly.
And, high ISO performance has already been a hallmark for Nikon for forever, it seems. And so now we get to pair that with the ability to go even faster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a match made in heaven for us. So.
All right, big question here. What is the biggest leap forward that this new mirrorless camera series delivers? I don't know. Maybe folks have different ideas about this.
There's a
Charmy?
lot of them, but for me, it's the 90% coverage with focus points. Also, there's a lot of different customizations. This is the most customizable camera I've played with, and I have the weirdest customization that I actually really love.
You have to talk to us about this.
So you can use the focus ring and make it your exposure compensation.
Oh, right on the dial.
Yeah, and so for me, that means ergonomically, this claw hand can do a little bit less work, and this one can do a little more large movement.
That's cool.
Instead of like teeny tiny, movements here. And so I'm spreading the work, which is going to serve me the day after when I have a wedding hangover. But also paired with the EVF, when I tend to be a little bit more of a moody shooter. Paired with the EVF, I'm really shooting for what I want really quickly. But the customizations, there's so much you can change and make it yours.
I love that. What about for you, Todd?
Yeah, I think to build on that, I mean, the fact that the zoom ring or the focus ring on the primes, it's not mechanically geared, and it's basically fly-by-wire, so it can not only control the focus, but you can set it to
Change
control
it to
these other
ISO,
features.
yeah.
So it's basically another customization function, which is amazing. I mean, for me, there's so many different functions that stand out and features that stand out. It's kind of the sum of all the parts that elevate this, the Z7 into something that is really special to me. It's a combination of, the AF coverage, the EVF, the fast XQD card in this tiny compact body. So it's so exciting all around. It's so difficult to pick a specific function or feature for me.
And for me, the way I would describe it is the camera is kind of the quintessential tool for someone that's a true creative or a storyteller, which I kind of think that funnels me to exactly what I am. Is it allows you to do so much more, everything that we can do, like we said, with the multiple exposures before, but now like in the custom picture profiles, aside from vivid and portrait monochrome, now they have this new menu of creative profiles. So
And you can make your own.
Exactly, and so you have like these ones, like you'd use a filter on Instagram or a preset on Lightroom, you can do it straight in the camera. So whenever I was in this CrossFit gym in Honolulu, I had this beautiful red wall in the background, but I was like, I want to bring that down a little bit. And I looked through there and I was like, oh, what does bleach do? And so bleach dropped all the colors, desaturated the image, boosted the clarity in it, so you get a little bit of grunge, a little bit of that mid-tone texture. And I was like, this is fantastic.
And you can see it in real time.
And you can see it,
Yeah.
yeah. And it just gives you the ability to just go and, come up with something different, do something new. And then again, the ability just to disappear when you need to disappear.
I saw somebody's file of a night sky that had an in-camera preset yesterday, and it was flawless. So the things you can set up yourself for, and we talked about this earlier, whatever I can do in camera, that means I'm doing less later.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Photographically, 100%. But also, it's like photographically, you expect this from a Nikon camera. What surprised me and what I feel is really the big leap is the attention to detail on video in the camera. Because of the mount, we get all the same advantages that we've had with photo, but with the moving image, like having a vibration compensation system that is that good really changes the amount of kit that you have to do. Budgets are going smaller. I think there's a move towards more intimate types of work that can exist on the internet. Having a camera like this, like one large aperture lens, there's just so much that you can do. And coming out over HDMI, having 10-bit and the new N-Log, which is a wonderfully flat profile, allows you to get pretty aggressive in post-production on the grading. So the video features to me I had no idea that all of this was going to be under the hood.
And as excited as I am about this body, I'm equally as excited about the Z6, because then with that body, you're going to get pixel-to-pixel throughput on your video.
Yeah,
So.
I think when I can't wait to get my hands on that one to see what's going to be possible with video. Yeah.
Right.
And the ISO ceiling is higher.
Yes.
So I think for event folks, for sport, anytime
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
ramp it up, I think we'll be in good repair there. All right, next question. Let's see what we've got here. Mirrorless cameras usually have a short battery life. Has this been improved? I think we've talked a little bit about this already, but it's interesting. I don't think of it as an improvement. This is shipping out of the gate with a proven model of battery that has done well in DSLR.
Yeah, and the fact that I've already got a dozen of them in my bag, I mean, it's saved me money right there. And the fact that I can use the same battery between the 850, the Z7, I mean, that kind of cross-compatibility and the fact that all my accessories work, all my lenses work across both systems, that's priceless.
Yeah. Super well thought out. I love that. All right, let me jump to the next question here. Okay, how is the focusing speed in video using the adapter for f-mount lenses? It's awesome. It's awesome. It's different using it. Like, again, I'm not accustomed to doing autofocus when I shoot video, but Charma, like you were talking about, just being able to tap to focus is it's pretty cool.
And you're able to control the speed. There's a -5 to +5, so you can control how slow you want it, how fast you want it to move. It's incredible.
It's one of those things that I think is going to wind up being something that becomes more standardized in the way that we make moving image pieces, like as we go forward. Are any of you interested in making moving image, like doing a bit of that?
Absolutely, and that's the pre-order of the 2 Z6 bodies. I mean, that's primarily what they're going to be used for. It's going to be for video. And last night when we were, had a little event, I had a lot of fun watching him work with another one of our ambassadors, Chris, and he was essentially setting everything up and then showing how to pretty much do dolly moves handheld.
Yeah.
As this thing, just kind of locked focus and moved. I was like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, between the lightness of the body and the the 5-stop stabilization and 5-axis. I mean, it opens up a lot of possibilities. I think doing more video is definitely going to be something that I'm going to pull out with the Z7.
And like the opportunity for using the camera remotely, I think, is also a really cool thing. Like if you're capturing, how many cameras do you have on a given sport?
It depends. It depends if we're going to do a lot of remotes. I mean, so remotes, and we could have 14, we could have 20 at times, depending on the event that we're covering. Sometimes, 4 or 5, but it all kind of depends. I mean, that's just the remotes in addition to whatever I have on my body. But the neat thing is, with this, as far as remote, I put it up on a 20-foot boom over a track and controlled everything through SnapBridge and on my phone, and everything just locked right in, worked. I controlled shutter speed, aperture, ISO, focus, and triggered it all from my phone.
Mm-hmm. And you're having good luck with the SnapBridge?
I never had a single issue with it.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. All right, let's go to the next question here. Has anyone on the panel tried the adapter with any of their old Nikon lenses on the Z7 or the Z6? How well did they work? I think we've hit this. It's like Andrew was saying, the physical distance that the adapter creates between the sensor and the rear lens element is the same that you'd have on D850 or a Nikon DSLR. So there's no factor. There's no focal length change. There's no auto-focusing compromise. With the majority of the lenses, the majority of the modern lenses. So you can adapt all 300 some odd f-mount lenses, but for autofocus and automatic exposure capability, you only get to 90.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to putting some of my vintage lenses on it. And I've actually, as of last night, already have a pitch in to do a video all with vintage glass.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What's going on the camera? What are you going to do?
Man, I've got an old 500 f5 mirror.
The fat lens?
Yeah, absolutely. But we already started kind of making a list of about 10, 15 lenses that we want to bring out on it and just do something entirely different with it. And I was like, that mount allows us to do anything that's built from 1959 or mid-50s, whenever F was announced. And I'm just going to put it on and just go to work.
I think a lot of Nikon ambassadors have some old Nikon lenses that they just love, that they keep on their desk, and all of a sudden they can put it on and have some fun.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about that, because the character of lenses is a really important part of being in any system. All systems have them, but like for you, what are your character-driven Nikon lenses?
For me, like kind of one of the holy grails is the old 300 f2, which is just an insanely sharp lens. I was like, I can only imagine that on a Z7, a Z6, and be able to pull that kind of focus. I mean, it's so sharp, but with everything it can do, that's just gonna be fun. I don't even know where to start. It's like I kind of salivate looking at all the options and possibilities.
Yeah, every lens is like a paintbrush, and it gives you something different.
Right.
One thing I'm just thinking about now is, you mentioned 300 millimeters, the 300 millimeter f4 PF lens from Nikon. It's about that big. It's tiny. It's like the size of a 24-70 basically. So to have that tiny, compact, super telephoto on a body like that, where you can just disappear in a crowd. Because I'm shooting from all over in these arenas and amphitheaters. And so I'm already, like Andrew, I'm having 3 bodies on me. And so, have a 24-70, 14-24, 70-200, and then maybe I'm having the 300 mil on another body, on a 4th body. So to have that on a super compact light body like the Z7 is going to be amazing.
But now you can take that another step further because you got the new 500 f6.
Oh, yeah.
5.6. That's,
That lens is
that's not much bigger than a 7200.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine.
That lens is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so small.
It's like the 70 to 200. Like I held them both up when I got to see it for the first time. It was with a 70 to 200. I picked them both up, and it was like, what is going on? They feel so balanced.
You can handhold it.
It
all
feels
day long.
impossibly small, but it's not.
Right.
And you can carry it on, which to me is like a big deal. Like if I take a regional airliner,
Yeah.
You want to get the camera bag on.
Right,
Like,
right.
Other stuff you could ship or take
It's
your
disposable.
Yeah, I might be able to find that, but you got to get the cameras on. You
Yeah.
can't do anything if you don't have the cameras. Being able to get it in like a standard size or even like a small backpack and just slide it under the seat in front of you is
Exactly.
pretty fantastic. Right? Do any of you shoot manual focus? This is a question I wanted to ask.
Depends.
Yeah, and for me, it would be in times of inclement weather. You know, if we're shooting in a blizzard or a rainstorm or stuff like that, oftentimes, you know, there's so much stuff that's going on between you and the subject. It's just easier just to manual focus.
Did you try the peaking mode on here? It's like 3 levels of awesome peaking.
Yeah.
Seen demonstrations, I haven't gotten into it yet.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I did for the portraits that I shot, and this kind of addresses both manual focusing and the customization, is set the movie record button to zoom into 100% in the viewfinder. So I can have the camera in my eye, set the focus point with the pinpoint focus, hit that, go into 100%, know that I'm nailing it, hit it again, and go back to the full frame, and just keep shooting. And just having that like kind of super fluid focus check, be able to like manually focus and adjust it if I wanted because I'm using back button AF. That's one thing I loved, and just, it speaks to the customization and being able to set the camera up the way you want it, and I loved it.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. All right. Do you manually focus?
Only when it's messy, like, bad weather, fighting the elements. Yeah, otherwise, I'm going to let autofocus do its job.
I'd
worry about my composition.
Kind of in the same.
Yeah.
But for manually focusing, I manually focus for video, so that peaking feature is super cool there. All right, so, I don't know the answer to this question, so let's see if maybe one of y'all have this one. Is there a built-in intervalometer? So you have any log settings for video, exciting times for photography. Cool. Is there a built-in intervalometer? Shall we check?
Survey says.
Oh, and
Yes.
I can, there is.
Yep, sure it is. Just like it would be in, your 850 or D5,
Nice.
500. It's
Yes.
there, it's ready to go. Yes,
And it's in the same spot.
same spot.
Okay, so if
Just
you're-
like it should be.
If you're coming from the 850 or the 500, it's right there. As for log settings, you get N-Log coming out over HDMI 10-bit to a recorder. So it doesn't do N-Log internally, so you just have to go out to a recorder. I think most folks that are going to be recording a log file anyway are going to be going to an external recorder. And agree with you here, these are exciting times for photography. Okay. Oh, here's a good question. Who do you see being the target audience for the Z7? If somebody is considering D850, why would they choose a Z7? It's a good question. Who's it for?
I think it depends on how you want to use it. I mean,
Yeah.
it fits and can do so many different things across genres. It kind of depends on where is it and how is it going to be the biggest asset to you and what you want to do. So for me, if I was doing, less games, I was doing even more behind the scenes stuff, I'd be more likely to pick up that. But, I'm also doing a ton of portrait work. So my D850 is my workhorse for portrait work. This will still get thrown in the mix. D5s get used less sparingly when it comes to sporting events, especially late night stuff when it's dark. D5s can get the bulk of the work of the workload. But
Is
if
it
I'm
ISO ceiling?
exactly. But if I'm doing the behind the scenes stuff, I want to be quiet. I was like that. Those two are going to get put to the side, and it's only going to be that. So it depends on just how you want to use it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on the photographer. There are, pros to both systems, and that's why they're complementary to each other, and that's why I'm going to have both in my bag. I think that the form factor of the Z7 is a huge benefit, the silent shooting, all these things. So if those features, that feature set speaks to you as a photographer, that's going to let you do your job better, make more compelling images, and free you, as a photographer, that's an easy answer. I think if you need things like, dual card slots, 850, so there are no wrong choices.
Right.
I think that's the great thing.
And depending on where you're looking, the thing that's great about all of those is magnesium alloy, weather sealed.
Yeah, they're built well.
Yeah, the build quality of the D850 and the Z7, it's the same. You pick up the Z7, it's small, but it has this kind of density that inspires confidence. It's not. It has like a, I don't want to say weight, but the build, it's there. It's
Robust.
solid. Yeah.
Charmy, for you, who's this for?
I mean, I think it's an embarrassment of riches a little bit, isn't it? Like, we have so many great options, and I think every photographer, I mean, I hate to just echo what they said, but I think every single photographer is so different, and your needs are different. For me, they meet different needs, and so they're both for me. I need a D850 because I do like the dual card slot, and for other reasons too. I actually love how a D850 feels in my hands.
Yeah.
But this also does things for me that the D850 can't. And so they're complementary to each other, and I'm going to need them both.
I think that's how we're approaching it. Everybody here is already on an SLR system, so this becomes a complementary tool to the kit that's there. But if you're somebody out there and you're thinking, well, I'm not adding this to a system where I'm looking for one really great camera. Is it going to be D850? Is it going to be the Z7? I think you have to look at how you want to use it. I think the control layout's very similar between the two. You're not giving up anything in terms of like glass availability. That's all there for you. To me, I think if you had to buy one, it really comes down to choosing something with an electronic viewfinder or choosing something with an optical viewfinder. And one is not better than the other. They do very, very different things. The beauty of an optical viewfinder is in real time, you're seeing exactly what is in front of you. And there's no preview there. You're just looking right through a window at the world as it's presenting itself to you. With the electronic viewfinder, you're seeing the way that the sensor is reading that world in front of you.
Almost seeing the future.
Which the benefit of that means you know exactly what your exposure is going to look like.
Yep.
Right. So to me, that would be the big thing. If you could only have one, do you like an optical viewfinder? Do you like an electronic viewfinder? And they're very different. For us, we're all like, oh, this is complementary. But if there can be only one, then I would think in that range. All right, let's see what we got here. What is the single most important reason to switch to a mirrorless camera? Charmy, we'll start with you.
But I'm not switching.
Let's talk about that. It's not a replacement.
It's not a replacement. Yeah, I mean, these are systems that work hand in hand, and I guess if you're a person who really needs a smaller body and needs to be silent all the time, then you absolutely should switch. For me, it's about adding tools so that my imagination is less kept in a box. And this helps me get further and further out of the box that gear keeps my brain in.
I think the exciting thing is, this thing is, like a sports car. There's so much power packed into a tiny form factor. And I think that we've only, like I said, scratched the surface of what's really capable of happening within that box.
Yeah.
With that processor, I think once you start seeing like a CF Express start to come out.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's really let the processor breathe and really write those files super fast. I think that between that, all those autofocus points and edge to edge, we're just scratching the surface, especially with all the lenses that are in development that they announced as well. They're going to be coming down the pipeline.
I'm glad you bring that up, like the CF Express protocol, when that does hit the camera, there's some folks I think that have some problems understanding the spec. It's like a 5 frames per second, a little faster than 5 frames per second high-speed mode, and then there's like a high-speed plus mode that'll get you up to 9. Right. But that protocol is going to clear the buffer fast.
Right.
Like, so when that lands, like, update your firmware.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, the fact that it's future-proofed for that CF Express, can use the same form factor with a firmware update, that's massive.
Super cool. And you're not switching
To
mirrorless. It's just coming in.
It's coming in. It's going to be a complementary piece to my kit. I think there's so many things. For me, I think the EVF and that compositional freedom to put the AF point anywhere I want, to compose and not have to recompose, that's pretty exciting. But in addition, I think that the new lenses are so phenomenal, and the sharpness people are going to see with these lenses is something that is worth considering mirrorless, and the Z7 just for that, regardless of all the other features. But the new lens mount, the new optics, and what that lens mount are going to allow, that's exciting.
Super cool. Well, there's all kinds of different things, all kinds of different possibilities that I see when I am introduced to a new technology or a new piece of equipment. Charmy, maybe we can start with you. Like, what are some of the things that you want to try with mirrorless? Now that in Nikon there is a full-frame 35 millimeter option. Yeah.
My receptions that I shoot are pretty wild. Usually my clients they go all out on lighting, and their decorator is lighting things, and their DJ is lighting things, and the hotel is lighting things, and I mean,
It's a lot.
it's a lot. And I'm excited to see how this helps me speed myself up through that process. I adore light. I'm obsessed with chasing light and figuring out light, but anything that can, take me from A to Z faster, and this will, I'm excited to use it at a big, crazy reception.
Awesome. Well, you have a lot coming up. So
I
it
do.
seems like there'll be some opportunities for
Yes.
you very soon. Todd, for you, what's something you
I
want to
can't wait to use the Z7 at a concert. Live music, for me, one of the thrills about it is the challenge, because you have limited time, limited access, low light, fast action, and you got to freeze it all. And so, it's similar to sports photography, where it's jumping through these like flaming hoops in the photographic, terms. It's super technical, and for me, if a camera, succeeds at that, it's aces. And I have no doubt that the Z7 is going to be a huge, winner in that regard.
Love it. You, Andrew?
I can't say there's anything in particular I really want to try aside from pushing myself with more video, because I got into a lot of it. I'm just looking forward to being able to work faster and really kind of push my creativity, which all the enhancements that this body has is going to allow me to do that. And the ability to be quiet, it's going to allow me to do my job better, which is a win.
Super exciting, man. I think for me too, I really want to play with video and see what we can do here. Well, we're getting close to the end. We're not quite there yet, but y'all want to give away some B&H gift card money?
Let's do it.
See what's going on? Okay, drum roll, please. This is our winner of a B&H $500 gift card for tweeting in at us here. Our winner is Gearling Guy. Gearling Guy, congratulations. You got a $500 B&H gift card. It's super, super cool. And we've done a lot of conversation around the Z7. We've talked about the Z6 today. As we're wrapping up, maybe just like maybe a tip or some advice to somebody that's starting in photography. I think a lot of our audience are folks that are starting out in photography, or they're trying to find ways to elevate their game. And maybe we can go down the line. Andrew, start with you. And any advice that you'd have for folks that are watching over the internet there?
For those that are looking to see what mirrorless is all about, especially this particular camera, go pick it up.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you've ever held a Nikon before, just go pick it up and put it in your hands and look that everything that you might already have is essentially going to work. But just go see how it feels in your hand. Because for me, like I said earlier in the show, I was skeptical about working with an EVF, and it wasn't 5 minutes later and it just disappeared. It's like I was focused on the scene in front of me, and it's natural, and it was a pretty remarkable experience.
That's awesome. Todd?
I mean, as far as a general photography tip, if you're new to photography, you're kind of exploring what you want to do, shoot anything and everything. You never know. You never know what you're going to love to do. I got into music photography because I went to a concert and I took a camera. I was going to entertain myself with just shooting if I didn't, like the music or like the bands, and I fell in love with music photography, and that was what I wanted to do. So I think take those chances, shoot anything and everything that you can. Get out there.
Love it. Charma?
I'm going to stick with mine, even though he just said it, but in a kind of a different sense. That if you're just starting in photography, I think it's really easy to get disheartened when you see your frames later and you're like, well, this is not where I was going with that. And the only way to overcome that is to keep shooting and shoot constantly and shoot anything, and not just to find where your passion is, but just to keep pushing yourself and learning where you need to be and how you need to improve your composition and how, where your weaknesses are and what you can work on. And I think it's like any craft. The more you're going to work at it, the more you're going to clean up where you're headed.
I love it.
Learn from your mistakes.
Learn from your mistakes. That's great. Thank you, Charmy. Thank you, Todd. And thank you so much, Andrew. This concludes the B&H live stream panel discussion around the Nikon Z7. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.